This is the 4th time recording this walkthrough. I have been very sick with a throat infection. Here's a demo of what the original sounded like.
Saving on infrastructure all the way up to about tier 4 or tier 5, either or.
And I'm still not quite right, but I'm the hell of a lot better, but I did not want to give you guys a sub-prime video, so this is obviously going to punish me in the algorithm for taking some time off to heal up, so please consider liking and subbing and hitting that bell icon because it really would help, and clearly I do put the quality before the quantity. Hopefully that shows here, but today you will get 3 legendary lords in the Kairos Tzeentch campaign, one of my favorites, and boy was this one hard to do. This is one of the most technical, in-depth guides I think I've actually come up with because this is exceptionally execution heavy. You need to understand this, and as a result I have put this save file 1055 up on the Discord. Anyone can take it, so please, if you're new to the faction or just can't find your feet, take this away and you can tinker around. You have Sartorial as well as the Changeling, and of course good old Kairos. You have 2 holdings, one in the north, one in the south, and they're all exceptionally profitable and doing well, and you have cults galore all around using the new cult mechanics, which I will explain. There's not just 10 critical tips, but 20 critical tips, and without any further ado, number 1, understand that Tzeentch is tall. Tzeentch is the wood elves of chaos, building a small node of power rather than being a big expanse of coordinate destruction. You are building up a few really tall provinces as opposed to trying to spread the map with lots of tier 1, tier 2. The reason is much of your wealth revolves around multipliers, but only in the capital can you build the library building, which will increase your research rate 8%, as well as provide some passive grimoires. You get many ways to add stacked multiplier on top of multiplier inside your provinces, and then of course finding winds of magic and then relocating them to ensure that each area has at least 5 out of 6 to get the provincial bonus. As soon as you click over to 5, this will allow you to get all the bonuses and i.e. secondary effects that the buildings in your province will have. If you fall below, you will lose it, so in which case find an area which does have 6 and then just simply pass one along to maintain 5 across all of your provinces. These multipliers allow you to grow faster than any other faction almost, because even your growth buildings have a secondary bonus. 60 growth for a tier 2 building is absolutely bananas, and the reason is that Tzeentch are a high tier faction, a high tier race. You cannot survive just on tier 1 and tier 2. Each of your units is specialized. Horrors are good, but they need the support of other units in your roster, and when we hit the military section, you'll see why that's the case. Your early tier economy isn't enough to power you to control heaps of armies on multiple fronts. You just don't have the funds to do that. Just a quick bonus tip here. You can save money through construction. You have one of 2 options for your main building. One will provide a discount on infrastructure buildings, and you should use this one exclusively up till tier 3 because most of your infrastructure buildings, they cap out at tier 3. But as soon as you hit tier 4, jump over for the military building because military buildings are very expensive, so you'll get exceptional mileage from 20% reduction to military buildings, and of course continue that through for your tier 5 buildings. But the way you make your reach is not through military, it is through cults. Keep in mind there is one building that is above all else, and it's this, the branching plans, the ability to tunnel from one cult into new ones. It starts off with a 5% chance that a settlement with a cult will spread to a neighboring settlement, and yes, 2 cults that neighbor a single region, they will double that chance. And when the winds of magic are high enough, you will double that chance to 10% chance to spread, as well as gain 30 passive grimoires per turn. So this is how you spread, as well as this is how you produce grimoires in the early game and make absolute bank. Soon enough you will start expanding very quickly, and you'll have numerous new cults opening up every single turn, in which case these buildings are quite expensive, so even just leave the second slot empty and just get the branching plans building. It honestly does 90% of your heavy lifting. However, in the early stages you might also consider, even though it might get discovered, 40% plus 40% only equals 80%, so long as they don't have any heroes nearby, the cult won't likely be discovered and then thus destroyed, but you can gain an extra 5 grimoires with the complex stratagems. Whilst this might look slow and ineffective in the early game, we've completed our campaign at turn 80, and as you can see we have pockets of cults everywhere, and this is all achieved by the techniques that are outlined inside of this, which will also provide you with a northern province, as well as a really large base of cults, which is providing you a ton of grimoires, 1300 grimoires every single turn. Just a quick reminder guys, if you are enjoying the video, please consider liking and subscribing, it really helps out. Ask any question in the comments, I answer everything. And if you'd like to talk strategy, feel free to join the Discord. Cheers. Tip 3, the Magnus Cult Expanse. So a Magnus Cultist is a cultist, but it can't join an army. He's simply an agent that can establish a cult in any region, but it doesn't matter, just find the nearest and simply pay 500 grimoires and you can destroy this cult, and then 3 random cults anywhere around the map will establish, and that is how you get these little pockets of cults all around the map. Just make sure you build tunnels under each of them and they will start to spread out, and they will each be a passive source of grimoires and a hell of a lot of fun. The moment a region is fenced away and can't spread anymore, you can choose to keep it there for a source of grimoires, but you can knock over the tunnels building and then establish a cult Magnus building. It does take 10 turns. So as soon as your Magnus Cultist is built, you can see him here. He can't join an army. He has this icon above his head, but he will be able to deploy and establish a Magnus cult. You do lose him, but you gain this, and it has an additional building as you see here, providing some income, and if you can get the corruption up high enough, you will gain an extra slot for cultists. Very useful when employing my cult hub strategy that you'll see in the next point. But should you keep this cult? Well, no, you shouldn't. This is a quick pump and dump scheme. We are going to trade this in straight away for the Ritual of Cults, establishing 3 random cults anywhere around the world. You will lose this cult, but that's the reason why we chose this one. Soon enough, it will get re-established. Tip number 4, the Cult Hub. So what is a cult hub? Well, there's another way you can spread your cults, and it revolves around using the transfer settlement ability. Find a settlement that is tier 3 or ideally tier 4 and above. So long as the building is tier 3 or ideally tier 4, because it'll increase your recruitment limit, build the cultist building. Simply hire a cultist, get them to wander to the nearest region without a cult, and then deploy a cult. Now, normally it's a 15 turn cooldown between deploying new cults, but you just disband that cultist and hire a brand new one, and you'll be able to put down a new cult in maybe say 5 at most 10 turns instead. So this is an expensive but effective way of getting a lot of cults early on in your starting territory. This can be done by simply hiring from Demon's Gate and then sailing cultists up the coastline and then again up to Araby. Simply dropping a cult and then disbanding the cultist and then rehiring a new one, selling them up and then rinsing and repeating, having a single slot free to be able to pull this off. Tip 5, Unholy Manifestations. The very first move you make in the game will start off with Kairos in enemy terrain. Being in enemy terrain is the only thing you need to use the first changing of the ways, which will provide you bulk grimoires in the very early stages of the game, as well as a multiplier for additional grimoires from your early battles. So you want this on straight away, and every chance you can have to use it, absolutely use it. In the early game, it'll provide some amazing options. More of that in the walkthrough. Tip 6, confederate all of the Tzeentchian factions. Kairos starts with Sithoriel across the lake, a powerful Lord of Change, as well as a minor Tzeentchian faction to his immediate west. Now both of these you'll want to confederate. The first of all, Sithoriel, well, it's a powerful legendary lord. You'll see how to guarantee get him turn 4, and it just costs you some grimoires that you don't really have anything else to spend on at that stage. So as for the faction to your west, he starts off with a soul grinder, and this is a really great way to get a soul grinder in your army in the early stages of the game. So long as you confederate him anywhere between turn 10 and turn 15, you have a chance of saving this army. Tip 7, the teleportation portal. Another one of Kairos' brand new tricks, and boy is it awesome. You can simply spend 300 grimoires and instantly transport your faction leader the next turn. Well, it's not instant, it takes 1 turn for them to build. The portal will destroy the entire cult, so it's kind of a use once situation, but it will bring Kairos exactly where you want him and able to absolutely decimate and backdoor an enemy that didn't even know they had a cult. It's hilarious, incredibly powerful, and yes, we use it in our walkthrough. Tip 8, break Slaanesh. Well, now you can try the non-aggression pact with the Slaaneshian faction to your immediate east. Unfortunately, the massive war with Oxyotl will mean you will leave your territories on this eastern side undefended, and he'll smell blood in the water and start trying to backdoor you unless you continually gift him. So rather than do that, make sure you take his capital first, and then at very most, take another settlement to gift and then get a defensive alliance. The advantage is if you do get dragged into a war, he will send some forces to help assist with that, but honestly, I think taking this is much more effective. Tip 9, one front only. This is the most difficult thing to manage, and I'd say most people that struggle with Kairos are struggling with this because they get many fronts opened. If you don't destroy Oxyotl early on, you will have potentially Techless, more likely Kroq-Gar. You can even have Tyrion coming down and attacking at the same time. This can turn into a 3-on-1 with a faction that's not meant to deal with more than one in the early game, and it's very, very difficult. So here are some strong diplomatic rules that you should always employ. First of all, there's a rat faction. The Skaven minor faction starts here, non-aggression pact with them in the early turns. They will randomly declare war on you because they have no one else to, even though it makes no sense. They're dumbasses and they will try to attack you. So just non-aggression pact, you can use that against them. And I've even seen Techless break his non-aggression pact with Kroq-Gar in exchange for this, which is a huge, huge win for you. There's a high chance Techless will threaten you on the regular. Always pay for him. He's quite honorable as long as you pay his extortion. As for Kroq-Gar, consider taking one of his settlements. Use the transfer settlement ability on one of these if you want a nice cheesy way to get him on side, and then sell him his settlement back. And if you can, sell it for a non-aggression pact as well. That'll buy you some time, and time is the commodity you need most. Tip number 10, fight manually. I cannot state how important this is. Even ambush battles, you can usually outperform what the auto-resolve will give you. You'll see that in the walkthrough, but just try to keep your numbers really, really high. You have a much more chance of being declared war on when you are weak, when your balance of power through having weaker armies makes you look like an easy target, and as soon as one or two factions declare war, there's blood in the water and you look weak, and then other factions will want to join in because it's a popular, cool thing to do. So keeping your numbers high by fighting battles manually is very, very important, and I recommend fighting nearly all of your battles manually in at least these formative turns. Lastly, the Blue Scribe's quest battle requires you to get 500 casualties, get nearly no casualties by auto-resolving, whereas you can get 500 in a single manual battle sometime. Tip 11, the anti-lizard military. Well, what do I mean by this? Well, I'm going to give you a bunch of tips that will help you beat Oxyotl, because that really is the meat and potatoes of this early campaign. You will get steamrolled and wonder how the hell he can field so much, and it is just so hard to deal with. But here's some tips. First and foremost, use your cultist to wound his skink oracle. Additionally, the regiments of renown, the severed claws, are very, very powerful. Aspiring champions with the vaunted Tzeentchian halberds. These guys turn dinosaurs into sushi. They're incredibly tanky, they'll stand there forever to fight, but more importantly, they actually put the hurt on. They deal with these big monsters, which is something you really struggle to deal with in the early game. Also, do not underestimate Chaos Warriors of Tzeentch. They are so, so key. If there's one unit that makes a difference, this is the unit. Make sure you get at least 5, 6, or even 8. 1 or 2 flamers is great for crowd control. Just remember the Exalted Flamer is a counter for single entities. You'll struggle to get Iridescent Horrors out in time, but don't forget they now provide replenishment, which is something you might need. Next up, Teleport Stance, one of Tzeentch's most famous abilities. Yes, it does cost you some Winds of Magic, so your Winds of Magic bar on the right hand side, it does replenish over time, but it'll cost you 40 for each time you use the Teleport Stance, but it is a guaranteed ambush, which means it's very, very effective when auto-resolving, so you can use this to take out an enemy army quite easily. Tip 13, Spell Guidance. The Blue Fire of Tzeentch is great against several enemies. It's not just light enemies either. Overcasting this on light armor units like Skinks is also very, very important. But I often find myself single casting the Blue Fire and then overcasting the Pink Fire when I get a good shot. Plague of Rust with metal is absolutely key. It'll dump down the armor of enemy dinosaurs as well as their generals, meaning that the lack of armor piercing your army has is less exposed here. Tip 14, leveling up your lords. Let's just start with Sartorial. Honestly, when you see the walkthrough, he's largely supporting your main army, so I would just go straight down his spell line and make him an absolute powerhouse. Tzeentch get many really, really effective weapons. Kairos can be spec'd out a couple of ways, but I really do find if you're building tall, getting things that boost the change of the ways is really, really invaluable. Extra grimoires will really help you in the early turns, and lowering your changing of the ways cooldowns, very, very potent. Now this is one area where, and one time I think Lightning Strike is a really good investment. Getting cornered by big stacks of dinosaurs can spell game over if you're playing on Legendary like we are on here. Color me cautious, but I'd rather be careful than be dead. Now this might be controversial, but reducing your upkeep for Tzeentch, I think is absolutely key. You need this money to level up your provinces, which means expensive construction, or if you somehow need a second army, you're not going to be able to afford it. Stacking up to a negative 17% upkeep, as well as some extra campaign movement. Focusing from here on his personal tree as well as his magic is the right way to go. His units are strong enough and don't really need the army-wide buffs, but the one I would always get is the Law of Life. Even just one point in here for now in the early stages, gaining regrowth is just invaluable. Now, I've shown this trick before, but with the blue scribes, I only get the Law of Life spells in the early stages. Until I get enough skill points where I can just rage all the way across the Scrolls of the Apocalypse, just sitting with the Law of Life is incredibly powerful. The Tzeentchian spells, they're great for damage, but being able to heal, so powerful in the battlefield. This will keep your characters alive. Gaze of Fate pins an enemy unit in place for 14 seconds. This is an absolute death sentence. Cast Plague of Rust on them and then get all of your pink horrors to focus that dinosaur down. From here, once you've worked your way to the end of Great Arcane Conduit as well as personal tree, you can get 2 points in each of these. The first point will give you a weapon, and this weapon will give you the spells of that particular Law of Magic, may it be fire or life. In this case, always switch it back to life. Just healing is too good, you do enough destruction. But the second point will give you a passive, and each one of these you will gain the passive. So you want the 2 points in each of these, and having this many passives stacked up every time you cast, incredibly powerful. And once he's at level 50, Kairos is a one-man army. And on that topic, tip 16 is don't conquer, steal. Yeah, sure, you can't afford the armies to go around painting the map like some factions can, but you don't need to. You don't need war. You can get other people to declare war. You can get them to fight each other, make peace with each other, take their stuff, stop their armies from moving, outmaneuver them. There are so many things you can do with a single army due to the changing of the way abilities. But of course, transferring settlements is just so incredibly powerful. Normally when you take a settlement, you knock a level off it. So a tier 5 will go down to a tier 4 and you need to regrow it back up there. But you can take the settlement clean without damaging it at all. The crux of being a good Tzeentch player is, instead of trying to outmaneuver and outpower people, is just be an absolute dick. And I would always recommend setting up a new holding up here in the north, and the way you can easily see that is just simply go to Kairos' quest battle, visit it. By visiting it and previewing it, it will uncover this area of the map, allowing you to capture these settlements. Tip 18 is affording the high level changing of the ways abilities. We've already loosely touched on this with cults, but of course, do not forget that there will be a time where you will have so many cults, or they'll be in a position where they can no longer spread for you. So in this case, either build a Magnus building or knock down the existing structures in there and simply build the Cult Machinations building, which lowers the changing of the ways cost by 80%. You stack this with Kairos and build a couple of these and you will have free changing of the ways abilities. Keep in mind, this is a very fleeting bonus with 200% discovery. They will quickly find it and knock it down. Good thing we have a couple of tunnel networks neighboring it, so it will likely be reinfected again. As the game rages on, you'll even be able to use your powers to start a war. Right now we're neighboring this Lizardman faction, and we don't really want to attack them because there's a ton of cults. This is generating a ton of grimoires, already over 1100 grimoires per turn. We don't want to disrupt that, but how do we keep these guys busy? Well, I don't want my Crone ally to go through here because he will raise everything and destroy the cults as well. So let's get these guys to fight each other and they can just endlessly bicker. So we just pay the tax. It's only one turn of grimoires now because we've managed our cults so well, and now they're at war and they are focused on each other and not on me. And additionally, if you are going to invade and attack someone, you can always reveal their shroud first, identify where their armies are. Although reckless, you could also capture one of their key settlements. Why not? We have so many grimoires right from underneath them, and that should be a tier 5 settlement ready for us to declare war. Let's sit in ambush stance at the entrance of this, and just to make sure Thorak himself can't counterattack us, let's halt his army for 2 turns. Additionally, you can use Force Rebellion on an enemy settlement and then come in and attack it, and it's mainly just a source for more gold, more experience, and even some items that the rebels might have. Tip 18 is tier 4 legendary heroes. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, one of your most paramount objectives needs to be getting your starting province up to tier 4. You will need the economic buildings, there's no way around that. You're just simply too poor and too weak economically early on. But instead of prioritizing grimoires in your starting settlement, prioritize the growth building. Now this is already tier 5, so I've knocked down the growth building and replaced it with the corruption building because this gives us a multiplier. But before this point, you want at least 2, even 3 of the growth building at tier 2 to help power along the settlement so you can get to tier 4. The buildings you need in question are the library as well as the barracks building. Having these 2 buildings at tier 4 is a requirement for the blue scribes as well as Eckhold Hellbrass. To gain the captives, make sure you fight the battles manually, and you'll be given a location to either occupy or simply visit. Simply run a cultist up to the area if it's not too far, or failing that, use the Reveal Shroud ability to uncover the area and then simply take the settlement using Transfer Settlement. Tip 19, Confederate the Changeling. Now, the Changeling can be difficult to find, let alone Confederate, and why is that? Well, first of all, he starts off in the Empire where you have no line of sight, but we've already established that we can uncover the northern edge of the map by simply visiting the quest battle. From here, we can use the Reveal Shroud ability on any nearby factions. If you find someone to declare war on Malachi Macaison, this will allow you to reveal Shroud. From here, you can often daisy chain other factions. If you can get eyes on the Ice Court and uncover the Ice Court, this usually will uncover some of the Empire factions. Go to your diplomacy screen and then see if you can find the Changeling as an enemy of one of the Empire factions. He'll always be an enemy of at least one of them. It's often Stirland or Hochland. Simply join the war against the Changeling. That's right, you want to declare war on the Changeling because you can't find him any other way. But immediately make peace, give him a couple of generous gifts, and then make a military alliance. His relations should be going up thanks to those followers you got earlier, and then as soon as they hit a certain point, you should be able to confederate him. You can even consider joining his wars and then using forced peace on the enemies you just made. And finally, tip 20, and that is to embrace the slow early scheming. I feel like Tzeentch really is a lot like the Wood Elves in the sense is that they are so unconventional. They aren't going to be for everyone, but if you can really just get yourself immersed into the vibe, into the lore of this faction and what it's about, and all about being a master manipulator rather than a conqueror, you can really start to enjoy this faction for how it's meant to be intended. You're meant to be economically weak in the early game, so you stay tight and you build tall, using your advanced technology, your advanced wit, and your advanced schemes to take advantage of the campaign map, turning people's ambitions against them, and then of course manipulating them. The cold heavy style of play I've encouraged here will mean you would never ever run out of changing of the ways. Plus, having lots of cults established around the map is just freaking awesome. But this is not a race about building 3 doom stacks and bulldozing enemy. It's about sending 2 moderately powerful stacks up, using hold army on one of them to prevent them from reinforcing another, then using borrowed time to move your reinforcements up to outpower them, then forcing their ally to go to war with Archaon so their forces can't commit to you. It's all about manipulating the strings and being the puppet master. If you can embrace this, you'll embrace the Lord of Change and all it can offer. Let's go to the walkthrough. Now let's get into the walkthrough, diving into the perfect 10 turns. Turn 1, and the first thing you have to do before you do anything at all, do not join your hero. This is a slightly different rule to the standard of joining the hero and doing your first fight. Instead, don't even do that first fight before you do anything. Get the Unholy Manifestation onto Kairos, and this will provide a multiplier to the grimoires you gain as well as a lump sum in the early turns, and you'll absolutely need every grimoire. There are 3 key things we want to do with these grimoire abilities in the opening turns, and we'll need all we can get. Move your cultist, press R to speed him up, and move him either up to Demon Gate. You can choose to either do this on turn 3 or you can just go one more settlement, which is what I would do. Take Kairos and complete his first battle on the battlefield. And on the battlefield, the most crux thing you're going to need to learn is to have a gap between 2 units of horrors to place your flamer. Now this is an exalted flamer, so it's better against characters and single entities, but for now we're going to use this to kind of learn the ropes of how to use flamers in general, because you only want 1 of those in any army, but you might want 2, even 3 of the regular flamers, depending how good you are at defending them. Keep in mind that this is a glass cannon force, and yeah, you are going to need to do a lot of nifty defending, and of course using Kairos himself to deal some big damage. Now you can overcast, but we're not going to do that just yet. Now what do we use and on what? Well, we're going to use the pink fire on the large blobs, and don't just waste on Nurglings, let's cast this onto Plague Bearers. So we can overcast this, and you know what, I'm going to do exactly that, and we'll hopefully get, there we go, we got both of their units there. Great stuff. Let's move our knights into position to intercept the enemy as they come in. Now, you don't have to overcast, but the most important thing to do is use these early battles to learn and get better at using your abilities. Pink Fire, Overcast can wipe out or basically cripple an entire unit, which will be really, really critical in some of the battles to come. Make sure your Flamer is targeting one of their more valuable units. Obviously, these Plague Toads are an excellent choice here, and we're going to run our horses side on into them, not straight into the line of fire, but around. Here we go, let's charge them in. There we are. That's great. Awesome, and if we focus at one enemy down at a time, we will break them that much quicker. So his barrier is about to break. Let's peel them off. Fantastic, doing really good damage. Now we've got a nice shot at their lord here with our Exalted Flamer, and this is exactly what they're built to do. There we go, look at that great damage. Excellent. Since we didn't take any losses, nothing else to do but to take that extra favor. Getting gold is difficult to do. With Kairos, Tzeentch are not an overly aggressive faction. We'll fight this again on the battlefield to avoid casualties. And on the battlefield, let's move this back so we have a nice straight line. Remember, this Flamer getting experience is also very much what we're after. Actually, that's an even better location to fight. Nice straight ground, and we'll cut off one way that they can flank us. Use this moment to assess what units are where. We want to spend Winds of Magic on the Plague Bearers, on the valuable units. So that looks like a nice spot there. If you get the chance to overcast, do it. So we'll focus down on one unit. And if you do get breached and this unit runs out of shields, pull them back, and there we go, and deal damage like that. Now with that victory, we will sack. Do not occupy, you'll ruin this run. We need this settlement to go to Sithoriel to keep him alive. So what do? We don't just move here, we will force march. Just move as far as you can go in this direction, because we'll need most of that movement next turn. There's some extra grimoires there for completing the quest. 1 point in Rat Marcher, then 1 point in Binding of the Wills to reduce Changing of the Ways cooldown by 1 turn, because we're about to use it next turn. As for your research, there's a few things you can go for. Getting down this line here gives you a few goodies on the way. Recruitment will be needed as well as replenishment later, but to pass these initial battles, I think Winds of Magic is absolutely vital, so I like to get an extra 20 Winds of Magic, so Kairos can just do what he does best, and then eventually move your way, of course, to borrowed time. At your capital, you will desperately need some money, so get the Web of Secrets building to get some extra income, and then upgrade your horror building. And turn 2, get our cultist and keep on traveling him to the west, because in another couple of turns we'll be able to set up that cult and all the good stuff we can do with it. Now switch Kairos into ambush stance and zoom in. You might need to zoom the map out and gain oversight to make sure you can see the borders of ownership and region, because you need to be exactly about there, just a step away, a step out from the edge of the border, so you don't have a trespassing penalty. And once we gift his settlement over to Sithoriel, which is exactly what we're doing, giving it to Sithoriel's Watchers, this will mean he has an army that is just out there and will need to return back, and hopefully he gets caught in the ambush and we get some extra experience over the end turn. Now Sithoriel, he has nothing left, he's desperate, so get that non-aggression pact to start building some relations, and even now you can give him a generous gift, and this will help the upcoming Confederation, and he's going to spend this on the buildings that are in there. So I mean, they probably won't get time to level up, but every bit does count. Upgrade your gold building, and over the end turn, more often than not, you'll nearly always get this. Get the auto-resolve, because why not? You won't take many losses except on these Furies, which you really don't care. And this gives you a bit of extra gold to work with. We'll get the replenishment in subsequent battles. If you don't get the ambush, then it's not the end of the world, but if you're that desperate and a min-maxer, you can just restart the turn and retry. Turn 3, and winning that ambush battle will give you a follow-up, or the chance to at least get one to get even more ambushes. Keep in mind that every turn that you're in ambush stance over the end turn, you get a chance to get the ambusher trait, bolstering your ambush, attack, and offense. Now, let's attack Volatrilex and do this on the battlefield to minimize your losses. And on the battlefield, there's a nice little choke point here, and we're going to hold on to that, and hopefully we can pepper them down pretty severely before they can really use their numbers, and we can limit their movement that way. So of course, on the approach, sitting with our Furies, ready to pin the enemy down. And let's focus down the Plague Bearers. They're a relatively strong unit, so that's a good opportunity for us to take advantage of. Using our area of effect. Excellent. Right. Now let's flank. Alright, pull back. Getting those flames, attacks, right where it hurts. Right, and this time we'll be occupying. We don't want to smash it up any more than we need to. I mean, technically we could, but there's just really not a lot of point in doing so. And this time we're going to hire 2 pink horrors because our recruitment building is now complete. And this settlement, we're now going to gift it over to Sethoriel's Watchers to build a bit of rapport and also establish a defensive alliance. You don't need to go for a vassal or anything else, just straight up defensive alliance. Take that cash, get every cent you can. And next turn, that should roll around into, look at that, those relations going really well, and he will be our secondary general, laying down a lot of hurt. Lovely of Kairos. I mean, we could get another point in pink fire, and that would mean we get a bit more bang for our buck, but we want grimoires. We want to make sure we have all the grimoires we need for the fun we're about to have. Now, this should be the turn where you get eyes on the Rapturous XS and get them to join your war against the Bubonic Swarm. There we are, excellent, good stuff. And it's always worth seeing, can we get them to join the war against the Bubonic Swarm? Oh, cool, they can. They're such a weak target, why not? And this will just, all these little things, they keep building those relations with those that we actually care about. Now, you might get threatened by Teclis, pay whatever he threatens you with. Just pay it, okay? It's absolutely not worth it. Turn 4, and this is where the crux of it kind of comes together. You have a few choices here, right? You can choose to keep on traveling this cultist all the way down and potentially teleport Kairos to their capital later and take that. Alternatively, you can take your time and do what I think you should do, and that is to level up Kairos, level up Sethoriel by smashing through your Slaneshi neighbor right there, or at least until you need to come back here. So we need to establish a cult, and we'd like it to sit for 10 turns to get a Magnus cultist, which will allow us to then spawn 3 new locations anywhere across the map. So I want that timer clicking down sooner than later, so we're going to establish a cult here, and because exploration is important, we will continue our cultist traveling down this direction. Very, very importantly, Acolyte Trials, and then getting this, which will destroy the building. It keeps the cult, but destroys the building. We time this to build a portal to then teleport Kairos here, move Kairos up. So it's time to get the fruit of our labours, get the Confederation with Sethoriel. If you gave him that generous gift the previous couple turns ago, you will have no problem doing this. Demolish your second barracks, and then hire another 2 pink horrors. You'll have the secondary army, put it in force march, and bring it towards Sethoriel. We'll pass these units over. Turn 5, and the most important thing, of course, get your cult building leveling up to the level 10 cult Magnus building. Do not build a secondary building, you'll get it exposed and lose all of your progress. Only ever build one building at a time for the most part. With your cults, you basically just want to be building cult Magnuses or branching out and getting the chance to make new cults, which also provides a ton of grimoires. So good stuff on all fronts. In the Lost Palace, we need a bit of income, so build your Web of Secrets income building and then send Kairos to complete your final province. And on the battlefield, we are keeping our horses hidden, ready for a nice meaty charge when they're not looking, using the natural terrain here to block the enemy off. And we have our flyers up the front to basically just put them off their game a little bit. Fully stretched out line of blue horrors, and then a couple of squared pink horrors, and then fully lined up gun line on them. It's really nice when you get a nice long angle like this to take advantage of the cluster shot, especially when they're moving slow and taking their time to move into position. Great damage on their strongest unit there. And if you retreat your units away from a single entity like that, you'll provide a really nice shot for your flamers to finish off. Lastly, this is important. This is very, very important. Get an on-aggression pact for whatever you can with these rats. They will just declare war on you for no reason whatsoever. Techless at least will threaten you first for the most part. I forgot to do this last turn, sorry. I was meant to give a generous gift to the Flaming Scribes, and this will reverse the impact of the Confederation penalty. Turn 6, and Sethorial is ready to be recruited, so let's get straight onto that and not mess around anymore. So, moving Kairos Fate Weaver up, keep you in ambush stance. There we go, there's our next target. Now you can try to befriend these guys, but I find you just continually keep on having to gift them to keep them compliant. So rather than do that, we're going to at least break their power. You can just take this settlement and get the research bolstering building, take another and then gift it back to them and keep them friends if you want. You can do that, absolutely, but I do recommend breaking their power by breaking their main army, which means we do need to declare war on them. Hopefully scoring this ambush, which will make this a very easy battle. Take Sethorial out of force march and then build 2 more pink horrors. Keep an eye on your corruption levels, because as soon as you can, you will want to swap that edict back. Keep exploring. You're basically looking for dinosaurs at this point here. No one just yet, and we're getting to the edge of our, well, soon will be Confederation buddies territory. Now, if you're playing on anything but Legendary, you'll be able to auto-resolve this. We can't afford to lose absolutely everything and demolish our army, so on the battlefield, there's not really too many good ways to do this. Usually the best way to deal with a army that's better with you in melee is to have a pincer, but have basically the points of the pincer relatively close together, so you can basically wall them off from getting out. But also, we're using the natural terrain here. We've got crevices here and here, which we can really rally behind to stop ourselves getting flanked, because these ferocious demonettes will absolutely slaughter our forces. We're also using these Furies as basically sacrificial land to tie up the Spawner Slanesh, because they are going to be by far the most irritating unit to deal with. And we're of course using the blue horrors in front of the pink horrors with our flames up front to hopefully deal some damage. Let's start the battle. Let's tie up these Spawner Slanesh, and of course the Thrower will soon fly in. They're in trouble organising themselves. Gives a bit of chance to use some magic, using your Exalted Flamer to target their hero to maximize the damage. So it's all about keeping the matchups where you want them. Okay, of course. Oh, here we go. Sethorial is here. Number him and just click in the middle of the field to bring him in. Alright, and as for the spawners to Tzeentch, they ain't gonna break, so send, hold Alt, and manually send in a unit of blue horrors to tie them up to preserve your much better pink horrors. Send your Lords of Change after their hero. Turn 7, and we can already see one of the great advantages of using Sethorial with Kairos is that we get this, a very, very easy to obtain follow, which gives you plus 15 Tzeentchian faction relations. So this will mean that the Confederation bonus you are dealing with this Tzeentchian faction here will be basically, well, there you go, it's completely circumvented, meaning we'll get a nice smooth Confederation once he starts getting the beat down. And also the Changeling, I'm going to show you how to get him soon enough, and this will mean that that becomes all the easier for it. So can just keep on traveling up. And there we are, there's Oxyotl. He will be declaring war before we know it on our Tzeentchian friend here. And we are looking very close at this 8 turns until the Magnus cult is built. It's alright, even if Oxyotl takes it over, this will continue to build. What we don't want is for us to have to take it over, because then the cult will go. In our starting settlement, the Lost Palace is closest to our capital, meaning it's the most defensible, so let's upgrade that. It sounds like the safest bet. As for Kairos' level up, in this case, we have a second army right there, and I'd like to take that lord out so it doesn't interfere in the upcoming battle. So I'm going to use Lightning Strike. Pass your 2 horrors from Sethorial over to the main army, and now use Sethorial to reinforce, moving him up into reinforcement range. And first, with Kairos, let's target this individual army, and we will Lightning Strike out the reinforcements. By now you should have also unlocked these Severed Claw Aspiring Champions. These are so key in defeating the dinosaurs. We don't want it yet, but we will be raising it. It is very important to our overall clans. And on the battlefield, I do have the battle timer on. I like to have 60-minute timers because I think at some point a battle should end, just like it does in real life. And I'm going to set ourselves up here with Kairos and MVP as well is going to be Sartorial, so he'll be here within a minute. So the important thing is to have these guys up front, and I like to choose this entrance here. We will have line of sight of their towers being hit around this point here. So the idea is get your forces into a really compact setup. You might need to have them on top of each other to some degree. You just have to pick your poison here, but if you can use your Lords of Change, they will take the heat and you'll be able to get your forces to the gates without being attacked. Kairos needs to be in front. If you don't do this, you're going to get your army absolutely hammered. So, starting battle, hold shift and draw a squiggly line with Kairos to bring him up to the fence. Now, select all of your units, hold Alt and left click to drag the formation up, and hovering over their towers, you can see their line of sight. Alright, they're preparing to be stormed, so they backed away from towers, but if not, just keep on using Kairos and flying around, getting the attention of the towers. Cool. Now, Sartorial, bring him around as well. So, turn off fire at will on everything. You need to save all of your ammunition. Okay, so I'm going to show you first this with just Kairos himself. So, he's going to dive in. Do two attacks, that was one. Second attack. Okay, cool. Now that he's doing in the middle of the second animation, while he's in the middle of the animation, have a look in the bottom left corner. See the flying icon? We're going to keep on trying to click off the wall. There we go. So as long as you're going on the wall to off the wall, the pathfinding will favour getting off there. But you need to finish your last attack animation. Okay? Now we just wait for our hit points to replenish. Sorry, our shield to replenish. And the idea is that we take none of the damage on our lords. So whilst Kairos is healing up, now Sartorial, diving in, one attack, two attacks, let's not get too greedy, cool, clicking off the wall, he's up, and Kairos is almost fully healed, and if you want you can even do it with two at once, if you are so inclined. It's one attack. Okay, and now they've done that. Now you just keep on, we're right clicking rapidly whilst alternating between 1 and 2, and they've both taken off and we haven't really taken any damage on those shields, so we can go in again. So this is how, occasionally they'll break through the gate and try and sally out. In that case, you can just manually target them and start shooting them, punish them for coming past. Once you're ready, use your horses to start knocking down the wall. And you can even get adventurous every now and then and go and attack a loose unit that's inside the settlement itself. Searing Doom. Very nice. Just a Searing Doom, just a really great bombardment to use to get some area of effect right near the entrance. And we haven't even used our ammunition yet. On the retreat is often a really great time to turn your fire at will off because they get nice predictable targets. They're just running away from you, and with them up on the walls. There we go. We can now focus them down. Now, if for some reason you want to gift this back to them next turn, you could loot and occupy to earn a bit more cash and some grimoires, but I really don't think it's worth it. I think keeping this is far more valuable because it's another capital, and only in capitals can you build a library which will increase your research rate, which means you'll be far more powerful, plus an extra 4 grimoires certainly won't hurt. Now the rest of them, you can move on, capture this, trade that back, and trade that for positive relations or even a defensive alliance, and that will be a good way of keeping you less, I guess, vulnerable with such a wide front. I've tried sitting back and just allying with this guy, but he will always eventually turn on you, so it requires lots of gold to maintain, so you at least want to take his capital to curtail his powerful to make sure he's the lesser in this agreement. But honestly, the best thing to do is, because you can teleport back, is just conquer as much as you can until your ally needs you to take out Oxyotl. Again, we got another boost to Tzeentchian faction relations. Just make sure both of those are equipped, and you can equip those to any hero, I believe. And there we are, Tzeentchian mutant. Getting Plague of Rusk is very, very important. It is really useful to powering down the big dinosaur. Now, he might have another army. If he has another army, then don't force march, because you don't want to get attacked by yourself, especially on Legendary, because he can raise units quickly. But we can see here, he has nothing left. So if he has nothing left and force march up to the next settlement, and he'll be able to attack normally next turn. Even just a 10 stack should be able to see you to victory. Quickly assess the enemy armies. Of course, there's Oxyotl with his big beastie stack of skinks, and he's going to build at least 2 armies of legendary, and that's what makes this so very, very difficult. Will he join the battle? And because there's no threat, he'll join this, and again build relations even faster. As for your technology, Scattered Loki is really important because it gives you much needed replenishment, and you can only get 2 recruit slots. It's very hard to get that 3rd one. This will help you get there, but we are going to equip you with all the tools you need to defeat Oxyotl, and Borrowed Time allows you to move twice in a single turn for quite an affordable little charge, so we'll get that. Now also, if you have an extra Winds of Magic, make sure you pass it over here, because most of your main buildings will gain a minor buff if you have Winds of Magic over a certain amount, as you can see there. Boy, do I know I'm going to get some heat for this, but honestly guys, money is the biggest problem in these early stages. We need to get our upkeep lowered, so if we can get just another point here to lower our Changing the Ways, and then get another 8%, that is a total of 17% reduced upkeep for this army, and it's already improving our cash flow. And we now have our quest battles, and these will give us Hellebron and the Blue Scribes, very, very potent, as well as we've got our quest battle, and that as well in itself is going to be quite useful, because we can use the quest battle to uncover the Shroud here, allowing us to steal settlements from Daniel the Demon, and you'll see how all that works in due course. But let's focus on the threat at hand right now, and that is getting our holdings expanded. Let's force march Kairos as close as he can get. Sartorial. So we've just started on the battlefield waiting for our reinforcements to show up, and here they are. Cool, and yep, they're being very defensive, and this benefits us because our Winds of Magic will just keep on turning over. So we're just going to send the dynamic duo over to start dumping the spells on them and force them into our gun line, hopefully doing so without losing any units. We get a nice angled shot on these Hellstriders. Yeah, it's not bad. Just laying in as much damage as we can. Good, and at least our forces are slowly going up in number instead of going down in number. Of course, Occupy. Let's just double check all our characters. Are all of our ancillaries equipped? They are. Great stuff. As for our cultist, just moving them up enough to hopefully discover their last couple of settlements. We might be able to do some trickery later and transfer one of them, but I doubt that'll happen. They'll probably force us to go to war, and they're looking very, very close to it. Just keep in mind you can wound this character, which is one of the most difficult things to get around in these early fights. So yeah, we'll be coming back and stalking Oxyotl, giving him a dose of Zone Medicine. Turn 9, and the Rebellion will have attacked you this turn. Time to fight back, and this looks like a terrible army, but you'd be amazed what we can do. On the battlefield, we have a choke point, and we're going to utilize it to the best of our ability. We have our front line of blue horrors stretched out wide to hold that front line, and we've just slightly boxed in square units of pink horrors so they quickly rotate and focus down at the enemy. If they're not going to come forward, we'll have to waste their ammo. Replenishing those shields, and rinse and repeat until they come forward. Good, good, good. Focus them down, focus them down. It's great. Next one. Pull the screamers out before it gets they get completely dumped on. Now we know the fight is coming this way. Now, if you're really, really dead set and you did not decide to drop a cult earlier, you could continue going this way and drop one in their capital, so you can teleport Kairos there and then backdoor them that way. But it doesn't really fix the other issue, which is, well, we're going to get attacked, and our ally is going to get attacked. He's going to lose all of this. You can basically count on that. He'll probably lose this and this Oxyotl, but we'll keep our cult here, and then we'll teleport Kairos back here as the reinforcements, retaining this capital, which we will confederate. He also starts with a soul grinder, so if you can manage to save that main army, you're in luck. But we're keeping an eye on here. Every turn, look at his enemies. The moment he has Oxyotl, we need to consider joining the war for a military alliance. Movement, move Sethorial up in ambush stance. The same for Sethorial. Turn 10. Well, it looks like the remainder of this rebellion has come back to face its bitter end. It's really going to make us fight this. Well, at least we can rinse and repeat our successful formation from the last turn. Well, it's extra gold, if nothing else, and that is that rebellion squashed. Looks like our public order situation is improving. Fantastic, and we would like the provinces closest to here to be the ones that get built up. A bit of a risk, the fact that this could get attacked in a single turn, so we will opt to level up the safest settlement, which is at least one turn away from being attacked. And it looks like it's finally happened. Oxyotl is at war. There we are, there he is. So, this is something we can do. And try to wound this skink. How did it work? Now we can at least lower the cost of trying again, which is what we're going to do. Over in the east, bring Sethorial up to reinforcement range, and then send Kairos down to attack and take the settlement, and do it manually to not take any losses. Another settlement, occupy it, and we have almost completed our second province. Only one settlement away. Now, since the war has started between Oxyotl and the Flaming Scribes, we could already confederate. Look at that. See, the only thing that's bad about that is we would lose this cult here a little bit earlier than we would like. Now, the pro is we would have all this territory. We'd have all this territory, but we're not going to be able to maintain the army here to keep it. And that's the biggest catch. Waiting 5 turns to get the Cult Magnus. So, instead of confederating this turn, I'm going to do the fun thing, and that's hold on. Cool. Turn 11, let's move up. There's Oxyotl. Let's try once again to wound this Skink Oracle, and we got him this time. Really good. Okay, cool. So that's one of the things that makes this first army so hard to deal with. I don't think he's going to win the auto resolve, but that will buy us a bit more time, and he still has his secondary forces left behind. We might as well make a bit of cash by making him a defensive ally. So around this time, you'll have the chance to make a tough decision, and it all depends on if he still has this army in one piece. This army has a soul grinder in it, and it always does. He will throw it away usually around somewhere between turn 10 and turn 13. If we teleport Kairos here, I think we'll have a chance to use both of these armies against Oxyotl, and we can destroy his armies, making this a much easier campaign. So we spend 300 grimoires to transfer Kairos here next turn. Because this will destroy the cult, we have to forfeit building the Magnus, so we may as well break that down. Okay, here we are, turn 12. We have teleported Kairos over to our western provinces. Before we do anything else, we need to confederate. I think his last army must be... it's got to be up there. Alright, let's confederate and see what happens. Cool. Alright, doing a quick assessment. We have tier 3 and we can build Chaos Warriors. Excellent. As well, we've already got our cultists, so we're already at capacity there. And we have an Exalted Hero, which we have managed to acquire through the Confederation. So, he has one army here that's quite vulnerable. So firstly, we're going to force march and then use borrow time, giving us all of our movement back. And now Oxyotl is just a little bit worried. Assume regular stance, and let's besiege. We do have to force march to pass the units over, but that's okay. Put the strongest units inside Sarthoriel's army. We're going to put 2 Screamers, 1 Soul Grinder. You need at least 6 melee units. Make sure you join your cultist. Getting a bit of extra experience is always going to be a good thing. And now the Regiments of Renown are very, very useful with Tzeentch. Of course, the Severed Claws. This is such a powerful unit. This will carve up those big dinosaurs that are giving us a hard time. But also, Screamers have anti-large, meaning this is, again, going to be useful against those big dinos. And this will make all the difference with the auto-resolve. And on the battlefield, we have a nice piece of terrain here, so we're going to back up and make that basically our hard right flank there. Reinforcements, basically the whole army coming, but they're mostly mobile units, so they can charge up. So we've essentially got a pink horror gun line lined up, and then predominantly melee units holding the line here. We have our Soul Grinder and our Exalted Flamer sitting up the front. We're going to pull the Exalted Flamer back into reserve, as it is a specialty unit, it needs to be protected as such. And hopefully we get some nice flanking going on. We're going to place the Screamers on the right flank and cavalry on the left. Let's see how this goes. Alright, backing down. Cool. Nice damage. Okay, cool. So send the Screamers straight after the Feral Bastillodon. There's no point doing anything else with them. So carefully picking out those Furies. I'm going to put them out to the side. Cool, so those Screamers are doing a nice job of harassing those pink fire on the blobs, working great. Sending cavalry after their skirmish units so they can't be effective. And there we go, that's our first big army taken care of. So to pull this off, you want roughly half your army melee infantry, preferably if they could be Chaos Warriors, that's great, but Zangors are also fantastic, as you know, even Forsaken are pretty damn good, but having... And just so we can see, if we hit the teleport button, we don't have to do the fight. We don't have to do it. But now we can see this. And we can take a settlement too, if we can afford it. We don't have the Grimoires, but we will. Yes. And further reducing our upkeep will alleviate some of the strain in our treasury. So let's use this opportunity to get some Chaos Warriors. So we can hire 2 in this province. So we're going to trade out these blue horrors into our second army and hire 2 Chaos Warriors. Alright, we're even with them. So we're our army and their army, so I'm quite comfortable collapsing this army. And of course, one of your best tools is your teleport stance. The overpowered nonsense, as long as you've got 40 wins in magic, you can teleport on top and gain the auto-resolve bonus to your battle. And this army, despite having weak units overall, is able to take out several large beasts. It shall be. And remember, we need that growth. We want to get our heroes up sooner than later. So doubling down on growth, you'll go bankrupt probably at some point. So spending all of your money is not a bad idea, so long as it is on building up your provinces. I really want to speed up the development of this settlement, so let's knock down this pink horror building. I don't think we'll need it just yet, and we can always recruit from this structure instead. And last of all, save some regiments for Renown, because you'll probably need to throw them into Sarthoriel's army to give him the numbers he needs to finish that very last settlement off. And by this point, it's just a simple case of moving your armies up. Try to keep them in reinforcement range so you get more of those relation boosts. But really, it's just a case of moving your armies up, making sure you take down their armies one at a time, utilizing your changing of the ways to double move, to teleport on top of them, to use ambushed attacks. Don't just use those too liberally because you will run out of winds of magic. Just prioritizing growth in that capital as well as gold in all your others, because that cash flow is tight, and that is why reducing the upkeep in Kairos' army can be absolutely invaluable, as well as now just continuing down that blue line. Reduce your costs to the changing of the ways, reduce the cooldowns, and you will find yourself just slowly but surely building yourself up to just having so much control on the campaign map. And if you feel free to take the save game that I've got, and that'll be found in the Discord, anyone can come and get that, and you can just jump in at turn 55 and just tinker around, learn your compositions, learn the different mechanics behind this faction, and then feel free to start your very own. I hope this has helped out. This all took so long, so please consider liking and subbing. This is Elvin. I'll catch you next time.